Welcome back to the Community Development Training. In this video, we're going to look at vision and implementation. Broadly speaking, how do we go about setting up, running and evaluating programs and projects in our community development space? So we're going to look at the elements of strategic planning, basics in project management, review and evaluation, and then how does this integrate in with what we've talked about previously in terms of community engagement and leadership practices. So vision is something we seek in order to understand and articulate the aim of why we're in the community development space. Vision comes from our own learning and experience, from what we've learned by listening to the community, and also it comes from the requirements of our employers and funders. So some of it is I guess, imposed upon us by the people who are supporting us. But to a large extent in community development, ideally it should be coming from the community and supported by your own aligned values and practices. It is really important to understand what drives vision in order to go about the rest of the process of implementing projects and programs. How aware are you of the sources and motivators of the vision? How locally grounded is it? Do community voices have the chance to influence this? And how much? And what can you do to improve that? Is there an alignment of vision across stakeholders, and to what extent? So obviously this is really important in avoiding conflict and difficulties in the implementation of the work you do. And how does your own personal sense of vision fit within the environment? Do you feel like you're fully connected in with the community's vision? Are there things that you want that the community hasn't articulated? It's okay to feel that, but it's really important to know about that before you go about what you're doing. If you're going to be genuine in community development, you need to be aware of your own motivations if they're separate from what the community is wanting. And then strategy is the art of planning to achieve your vision or your aim. Aligning your stakeholders to a vision that genuinely responds to the community's needs and the community's voices. It requires quite skillful leadership. That doesn't really come about from listening to a presentation like this or reading stuff on the internet. It comes from practice and from really getting to understand yourself and understand other people well, and understand your community well. So beyond vision, we have mission and objectives and strategies and action plans. So these are kind of the building blocks of project management. This can be a helpful guide for your overall planning and implementation, moving from your big picture vision right through to your specific actions that you undertake to achieve your projects and programs. The key aspects of this whole process are who you invite on the journey. It's vitally important to include the right people and include a comprehensive range of relevant stakeholders, to keep everything you're doing directed at the ultimate outcomes, the vision and the mission, and to keep what you're doing concise and simple, easy to communicate, easy for people to understand, so that they feel like they're going along for the journey and that you all end up going along for the same journey. There are many helpful resources available. I've drawn from the Community Toolbox, which is a US resource, but there will be a link for that at the end of this video. So objectives in your planning and implementation are really the articulation of the outcomes that you want for your community. And there are, I guess, three broad types of these. The first is changes in community members' aspirations or hopes, attitudes and beliefs, or their behaviours. So it's actual changes in their internalized thoughts and feelings, or changes in their behaviours. The second broad type of objective is changes in circumstances or outcomes for people or communities. And the third is more of an internal one. It's commencement or achievement of internal goals, internal actions or processes or systems or resources. Strategies then are what you do to achieve your objectives. And these fit into a few broad categories. Providing information, knowledge and skills to people is one strategy. Creating and developing services creating and improving access to opportunities, which may not necessarily be the services you run, but may be the broader opportunities available in the community. Creating or improving the consequences and benefits of participants' actions. So this is where, through a diverse range of means, you're creating a way for more benefit to reach people with the given actions that they're undertaking. And then finally, structural changes or improvements to the environment in which people are operating. So this is, I guess, a broad level of advocacy or attempting structural change or systemic change amongst external stakeholders. Action plans are really a set of steps and tasks towards achieving a strategy. It's important to outline who's responsible for the achievement of each task in order for there to be accountability in that process, and in order for there to be the ability to track progress and to be able to respond appropriately if things are being held up. Providing clear timing, having deadlines in some cases for the completion of task or the achievement of a milestone, but really giving a sense of when you expect things to happen, so that if you come back and review it, you can get a sense of, is this on track, or do we need to catch up on things? Has something been missed? Is something delayed for some reason? In your action plans, you need to outline the resources you need and the resources that are available. That may not be the same information. You may have some resources you need that aren't available, and it's important to be able to identify that as a limiting factor in your planning. The challenges, the barriers, the risks to your action plans, the risks to your activity are an important part of your action planning. And who are the stakeholders and who are the partners involved in this work? The Project Management Institute has a very comprehensive outline of the domains of project management. Won't go into that in too much depth here, but it's just helpful to see this broad listing of the areas that they deem are important. Project integration, which is really just overall coordination of what you're doing. The scoping of your project, how you're going to manage scheduling, that's the timing of processes towards the achievement of the program. Costing, managing quality, managing the resources involved, managing the communication across all stakeholders and beneficiaries of the project, risk management, procurement management, if that's relevant, and stakeholder management as, I guess, a closely allied to communication management. In review and evaluation, it's always important to establish a time frame for review in your planning activities and making that relevant to the scale or the duration of the project that you're undertaking. The reasons why you do a review is to have an accountability structure in place for the community that you're serving. Also to have accountability to your funders or employers. Often an evaluation method is built into anything that's being funded. But in any case, it's important to have a review process and a communication of the results of what you've done to the stakeholders involved. The key evaluation questions are in the areas of the success of the project implementation itself. Did we achieve what we set out to achieve? The success in obtaining outcomes for participants. Did this activity actually have the results that the community needed, the outcomes that people needed? And the impact on participant or community behaviours and circumstances. So it's getting a sense of what difference did this make? Evaluation methods can be very simple or very complex. You can have very basic methods such as observation, obtaining feedback from participants or workers, surveys and interviews. You can move into more quantified measures or do a whole of project impact evaluation if you've got the time and resources to do that. So what we've talked about in previous videos about community engagement and leadership really are integral supports to the planning and implementation of the activities that you undertake. When you build a vision, developing a plan or outlining the strategies, returning to the principles and practices involved in listening to and understanding the community are critically important in community development. You need to be able to undertake community engagement well in order to have a vision which meets the needs of the community, which articulates the needs and aspirations of the community. Being a proactive, accessible and professional leader will help you every step of the way in project management and program management. Soft skills can be often overlooked in this area of work. So we obviously have action plans which outline what needs to be done, by when, by who, what resources do we need, who's accountable, who are our partners, and so forth. But how does this actually get done in real life? We need people management skills. We need to be able to communicate well with people, to articulate a shared vision, shared values, and to motivate and encourage people to follow through on what they need to do. We need to manage people's expectations in the process of planning and implementation of a project, because people's expectations can be diverse, can sometimes be unrealistic. We need to keep aware of that and working with that. Change management can be an aspect of a project or a program. We could be changing something that's been quite significant in people's lives, and people can react very strongly to change. We need to be aware of that as well and know how we're going to deal with that and keep communicating and keeping people connected to the new vision or the new change that's underway. Adaptability. So we might come up with a great plan at the outset and then things can change. So we need to be open to changing our direction and changing our planning and actions as the context dictates. Tolerance of uncertainty is very important in planning and implementation for that reason. We can't predict everything that's going to happen in the process of implementing a program or a project. We need to have some sense of being able to manage ambiguity and uncertainty in what we're doing, and then adapting as we need to. This has been really a very brief overview of some of the key aspects involved in creating a vision, implementing a plan, and reviewing and evaluating it. I haven't gone into too much depth really, because there are a lot of very useful practical resources out there. The Community Toolbox, there's a link for that here. This is a very comprehensive US website which talks about planning and implementation and dozens of other topics relevant to community development. I really strongly encourage you to have a good look at this website. The Introduction to Community Development link given here, and the Community Door resource are other resources which will be very helpful in terms of providing resources for planning and implementation of your activities. For your homework, obviously you want to be able to articulate your vision, your mission, and your objectives in your community development work. So it's good to start by doing this yourself personally, getting a sense of your own direction in your space. But then who else is going to be involved in articulating this? Your community members, your funders, any auspicing parties or other important stakeholders. And then think about how you are going to go about including their voices in articulating a vision for the community. Definitely review the resources on strategic planning and action plans. And then it's important to put this into practice. Draft a strategic plan for your context. In the Community Hubs program context, this is part of the work that's required of hub leaders. So that it's helpful that that's already a process in train for you to learn from. But in any case, if there isn't an immediate opportunity to do this, it's very important to go through a process of planning for your community and your community members, involving them using all of the skills of community engagement along the way. So I wish you well in that endeavour.